Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, September 10th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Arkansas State game is today, the game against Michigan in 77 days. It is another college football Saturday, which means we will have a full day of coverage at BuckeyeHuddle.com and at YouTube at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. The game against Arkansas State kicks off at noon, but we will be live with a pregame show at Ohio Stadium well before then. Make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified so you can be part of that pregame show. And then again, after the game for our postgame show. Pregame show, we haven't planned it out exactly. It'll be 8:30, 9-ish. This is why you need to subscribe, because we don't do the planning. So you need to pick us up and just hit that bell, and then you'll know, because the YouTube will tell you when we get our act together on Saturday morning. There should be a lot to talk about whenever we do get started on Saturday morning, including some young Buckeyes making their first appearances on offense and defense. If you want to hear more about that game before then, we dropped a game preview on the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed on Friday. So today on this show, we're going to be looking at the rest of the college football world. There aren't that many truly marquee matchups this weekend, but, how many times in the past have we had weeks that everyone sort of scoffs at, like, oh, there's no good games today, and then they turn into a bunch of classics because you have a bunch of crazy upsets. So college football is good, I guess that's what I'm saying. Someone else who's good is Tony Gerdeman. He's my guest today. He's going to be covering the Buckeyes with me on Saturday morning at the Horseshoe. Going to cover everything else right now. Tony, thanks for being here.
Always an honor and a privilege, Tom. Thank you for having me.
So I guess we need to start with, what is certainly the helmet game of the week, if nothing else. I'm not sure it's going to be a good game, but I'm actually maybe thinking maybe it won't be. But Texas and Alabama, that is the big noon kickoff game on Fox at noon. You can flip over to that while you're watching, instead of watching Rotel commercials on BTN during the Ohio State game. Alabama favored by just under 3 touchdowns. The relationship between Nick Saban and Sark it just seems it's a little frosty maybe. Not like Jimbo Fisher frosty, but it may be a little frosty there. Alabama seems like they have a big talent advantage. To me, this, true freshman or redshirt freshman quarterback, Quinn Ewers. That's right, I forgot. He played college football last year. Where was that? I can't remember. Anyway, he's going to be playing college football for the Texas Longhorns on Saturday. Is this going to go poorly for them? It feels like this might go poorly for them.
I don't expect them to win. I did, however, in some picks contest that I'm in, take Texas and 20.5 points. I just, you look at what Alabama, this is just the second time in the last 3 seasons they've gone on the road against, it's not, I'd say ranked opponent, but Texas isn't even ranked. The last time Alabama was on the road for a ranked opponent was last year at Florida, and they won 31-29, and it was much closer than people expected. I think that this is maybe like a 28-point game in the fourth quarter, and maybe Texas gets a couple of cheapies to cover, but I know we're talking about Quinn Ewers, and everybody's wanting to see him play in this, and what's he going to do, and he's going to, what's the mullet going to do? I think the bigger question is, what's Bijan Robinson going to do? Because Bijan Robinson is a guy that can keep Alabama off the field, and to me, that's more important than can Quinn Ewers throw a fastball 40 yards down the field. If Bijan Robinson can average 5-6 yards a carry and just churn the clock, kind of like Notre Dame was trying to do, and if they can hold Alabama to 50 or 60 plays, and then you can make this a game where, you might be losing by 3 touchdowns, but it's not that out of the realm of possibility that you could score to make it a 14-point game or something, just because the number of possessions are lesser. And, Bijan Robinson is supposed to be the best back in the nation. Let's see it, because it's not like Alabama's defense has been one of the top 5 in the nation. Like they've had some issues here and there. And if Texas is going to be back, they need their back to get them there, I think.
Is Texas going to be back? I know that's kind of a meme, but I look at the trenches in this game on both sides of the ball. It's like, I mean, Bijan Robinson can be a very good back if there's 3 guys coming at him clean. Like, I don't know if you're going to make 3 guys miss in the hole. One of my favorite tweets this week was from a reporter covering Texas. Sark, culture can have the opportunity to beat talent when the culture is really strong. So, yes, the famously strong and robust culture of Texas football, I'm sure will carry them through just fine. Maybe an outright upset, Tony. who's to say? Can Texas cover 20? Texas minus 20.5. Who you got? Yes, the Texas football culture. How else do you think they've overcome playing in such a talent-poor area? Next game, Tennessee -6 at Pitt. This is two teams that were, Tennessee had a very impressive win week 1. They were playing Ball State, and Ball State's not fantastic, but they just took care of business week 1. Now they go on the road to Pitt. Pitt coming off an emotional backyard brawl game. Who do you have here? Tennessee giving 6 against Pitt.
Pat Narduzzi wants to run the ball and control the game that way, but Pitt can't really run the ball. And so I think in this one, you're going to have to keep up with Tennessee because they want to snap the ball as many times per game as they can. They want to score as many points as the defense is going to give them. So I think this will be an interesting thing where maybe is Pitt trying to keep the ball away from that offense, kind of like the game we were talking about before. But eventually, I think you're going to get into a shootout here. And Keaton Slovis was pretty good last week and threw for over 300 yards. And I don't know that Pitt can stop Tennessee's offense. Hendon Hooker and those guys, there's just a lot coming out of defense from the Volunteers. Now, defensively, Tennessee can give up some points. That's why I think this is could get a little high scoring. The over-under is 64.5. It's just, will Pat Narduzzi cooperate, or will he just try to not Mark Whippleize his offense in this one and just try to run the ball? But eventually, I think they'll be down by like 14, and they're gonna have to do something to try to keep up. And so, I like Tennessee by like a touchdown in this one. So I'll lay those points.
That sounds about right. Yeah, what Pat Narduzzi wants to do just doesn't feel like it's going to work against better teams that can score a lot of points. You're trying to hold the score down. It's like, well, it's not 2002 anymore, friend. Like, this is the game of college football has changed. And, being a little bit of a Luddite and refusing to modernize with it is probably not going to work all that well. And the wild thing about Narduzzi to me is last year, you literally won the ACC conference championship, went to the Peach Bowl because you had modernized your offense and were throwing the ball all around and had Kenny Pickett, and he's, in the Heisman contending, and now playing for the Steelers. And then it's like, oh, that was terrible. Remember when we won the ACC and had a fun offense? That was awful. Let's go back to what we did before. 7-5 for me, please. I don't want to get football gout from all these rich wins and fun games. No, thank you, sir. Speaking of fun games, Appalachian State last week, 63-61, home loss in single overtime, double overtime against UNC. This week they go on the road to Texas A&M, and they're getting 18.5 points. App State is. I mean, yes, the talent gap is going to be huge here, but this is one where I think App State's offense might be good enough to put up. You put up 14 points, you put up 17 points. Texas A&M, I'm not sold on that Texas A&M offense yet. Am I wrong? Is this one where App State could at least keep it kind of competitive for 3 quarters?
I'm kind of with you on that, and sure, Texas A&M pitched a shutout last week, but Sam Houston, you can do that. Haynes King gets the start, is decent, I guess, but I think this is still a Texas A&M program that is trying to figure itself out, and I think the last week was it was a nice start, but this is going to be a stiffer test, even though we're just talking like it's Appalachian State. But like, you better bring it. You can't be sleepwalking in this one. You better be ready to have all guns blazing offensively and defensively, because Appalachian State is going to come out swinging. Like, that's just what they do. That's who they are. That's their mentality. That's their identity. And so, yeah, I think 19 points, that's a lot for against Texas A&M that starts slowly so often. And Appalachian State just has this way of, if you want to start slowly, we will keep momentum. We will continue to use that momentum. Like, we will build and we will grow, and then we'll make this thing a second half game, and then let's see who puckers first.
Well, a game where both teams might pucker on Saturday. The old El Assico, Iowa State at Iowa. Hawkeyes a 3.5 point favorite. Tony, can they get two safeties again to cover the 3.5 points? The over-under for this one is 42, which this game was always, just for years and years and years, this game always ended 17-15 or something like that, or 15-12. I covered one of these in 2007 at Iowa State, and I think Iowa State kicked 5 field goals and won at 15-12. And it is a notable rivalry. It is a rivalry that the two teams involved care about quite a bit. But man, it has generally not been beautiful football. Iowa has won something like 6 in a row now. And Matt Campbell has not beaten Iowa since getting to Iowa State, which is crazy when you think about how good he's been against pretty much everyone else there since getting there. Does Matt Campbell finally get over the hump this week? Does Brian Ferentz's offense finally score a touchdown this week, Tony? We're going to see something new and exciting this week, probably.
New and exciting or old and boring. I can't decide which it's going to be. The last time these two teams played in Iowa was 2018. The 2020 game, of course, didn't happen because it was a non-conference game. Do you know the halftime score the last time these two teams played in Iowa City, Tom?
There was one year when Iowa put up like 42 points on Iowa State, and I don't remember if that was 2018 or 2019. I'm going to say, no, you're shaking your head, so okay, so I'm going to say that the halftime score was 6-3, and I don't even care who was winning.
Close. It was 3-3, and I think the final ended up being like 13-10 or something like that.
That is what this game is. That is the absolute perfect example of what this game is.
I just don't see the over-under. You need 6 touchdowns in this game. Okay. How many pick sixes is that? How many fumble returns is that? How many punt returns is that?
21 safeties.
Okay, well, now I'm thinking the over. But yeah, the funny thing is, like, Iowa just controls Iowa State somehow in this series, but Iowa was so bad last week offensively, but the defense is still really good and it's being wasted, even though they are 1-0. 3.5, is it crazy to say 3.5 is a lot of points though? Like, you're expecting Iowa to win by 4?
Yeah, well, this feels like one where if Iowa wins, they win by 3 because they kick a field goal. The game is tied and Iowa State turns the ball over at their own 1-yard line and Iowa runs the ball into the line 3 times, doesn't score, and then kicks the game-winning field goal and wins by 3. That just, if I could bet on one thing, like I don't know what kind of odds I can get on Iowa minus exactly 3. Iowa by 3 as the final score. That's what I would put money on. But normally I'm hoping to. We'll get to watch a little bit of this one in the press box after the Ohio State game, I guess. So that'll be fun. I'm sure we'll have a lovely time breaking this one down during our post game show for on YouTube. Two teams that had nice wins last week. Kentucky. They are +6 at Florida this week. Kentucky beat Miami of Ohio 37-13. Florida had a very impressive win. I was not necessarily thinking they were going to do it against Utah, and they pulled it out. They didn't pull it out by much, but they pulled out a win. That was a good. That might be one of the outside of Notre Dame. That might be the most impressive win over a top team from anyone in the country last week. I guess I always wonder with a game like this. You've got the post Utah hangover where that is such a physical team and it just kind of battered you, and you're kind of getting the same thing with Kentucky again this week. What do you think? I'm leaning towards taking the points with Kentucky here.
I think my concern with Kentucky is they can't run the ball. They rushed for like 50 yards against Miami last week, and it wasn't Miami of Florida, that was Miami of Ohio. And so what are they going to do against Florida? They've got Will Levis, but if that offensive line can't protect him, how are they going to score? Florida needed that last second almost interception in the end zone to keep Utah from winning that game or at least tying it if they would have elected for a field goal at some point. But Anthony Richardson, quarterback for the Gators, still growing as a passer, but can take off and run at any point. And I think all you're asking Florida to do here is win by a touchdown. And that's kind of what I see happening here. So, yeah, I'm taking Florida in that one. The Kentucky offense right now, if you can't run against Miami, I can't expect you to run the ball in the swamp and have any sense of control of the game.
All right, fair enough. Next up, the Ohio State game. Ohio State's favored by 44.5 against one of the teams projected to be one of the worst in pretty much all of FBS this year. Michigan favored by a touchdown more than that in their prime time showdown with Hawaii under the lights in the big house. 51.5 point favorite. I mean, we've talked about Hawaii before and the uphill climb that Timmy Chang has to dig out of the bottomless pit that Todd Graham left the program in. So, this is not one that you need to judge Hawaii on at all. This is the J.J. McCarthy game where he's going to start and then he's going to win the starting job for Michigan because he's been set up to win the starting job for Michigan because he's the right choice. I mean, what are you expecting from J.J. McCarthy in the first half of this game? How many points does Michigan go into halftime with? Because last week against whoever they played last week, terrible team, Colorado State. Last week, they went into halftime up 23-0. This feels like they might go into halftime up 42-0, 45-0.
I think having J.J. McCarthy as a quarterback gives you the running threat to get through in the red zone, where Cade McNamara is not the guy who can get you through the red zone. And they kicked, 3 field goals last week. I think those are touchdown drives this week. So, yeah, I mean, 35 to 42 points, you would think, in the first half. And is Jim Harbaugh going to be conservative, or will he let things go so that everybody can see who the best quarterback is? So this is not me being a bad guy by benching Cade McNamara, who got us to the playoffs this year. This is just me doing what everybody knows should be done and making J.J. McCarthy the quarterback because his ceiling is so much higher. But I am interested to see the accuracy and does he make some dangerous throws? Does he throw those dangerous throws where only receivers can catch them? I think we're not really going to learn much, but we're going to get a good long look at J.J. McCarthy, so we can appreciate that. But yeah, I think what Vegas is calling for like a 59-7 kind of game here, and I think 42-0 at the half sounds not that far out of the realm of possibility or probability.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. And go back 3 weeks, and we're telling you here's what's going to happen with Michigan and the quarterbacks the first couple weeks, and marvel as we have nailed this exactly. Now, if McCarthy goes out and throws 3 interceptions in the first half, maybe we didn't, but I don't think that's what's probably going to happen. Maybe the best week of the game. This is kind of wild to me. Baylor was picked to win the Big 12. Baylor won the Big 12 last year. They were picked to win the Big 12 in the preseason poll. They are on the road at BYU. Baylor, a 3-point underdog. BYU, Kalani Sitake has done a pretty good job that program seemed like they were kind of dead in the water a few years ago. Zach Wilson kind of got them back on track. And then, maybe more surprising, they've sort of stayed on track since Zach Wilson left. That is a really legitimately good team. And, Can they upset, or well, I guess not even upset, can they beat a team projected to win the Big 12? And if they can, what does that say about the Big 12 this year?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. BYU last week went to, I believe, USF, ran for 314 yards, threw for 261, like a complete offensive performance, but they're also very physical. And Baylor played Albany last week. I mean, that's, of all, Baylor is notorious for terrible non-conference schedules, but Albany, who even knew that they had an FCS team worth playing? And I don't know that they are necessarily worth playing. No offense, but that was not much of a test. And I think BYU has had a better experience, a better test in terms of preparation for this one. The altitude gets talked about as well once you're playing there in Provo. 3 points just doesn't, I like BYU in this one because basically 3 points, you just need them to win, essentially. And I think, win by more than a field goal at least. But I like the physicality, and this is going to be a test for a Big 12 defense. They're not always known for being able to handle the physical stuff, but it's not like BYU can't throw the ball either. So I think this is going to be a really good test. And everybody loves Dave Aranda. He's one of the best in the nation. So, this would be a really, really good win for Baylor, but I'm going to take BYU.
All right, and last up, Mike Leach and Mississippi State in the why did you schedule this game of the week? Mississippi State going to Arizona to play the Arizona Wildcats. Due to state law, because it is 1 trillion degrees in Arizona this time of year, you have to play these games at night. So it means it is an 11 p.m. Eastern kickoff time. You may remember Ohio State playing at Arizona in 2000 in a game kind of like this at the very beginning of that season. I mean, Arizona is, Jedd Fisch is, in year 2 of what is going to be probably a decently long rebuild. They're like alive-ish. They're not, they're not great. They're probably not a bowl team this year, but they feel like they're trending in the right direction. This is, it's like if Mississippi State shows up, they're going to have an advantage in the trenches on both sides of the ball, so they should cover this, you would think, somewhat comfortably. But then, I don't know what it is about the 11 p.m. Pac-12 after dark kind of kickoffs. It's just like, it just feels like weird stuff happens sometimes with those games. So, I don't know. Is weird stuff going to happen to Mike Leach and Mississippi State in this one?
Well, you can take Mike Leach out of Washington State, but you can't necessarily take the Washington State out of Mike Leach, where, like you said, anything can happen, especially at night. Arizona went to San Diego State last week and won. Like, I don't know how good San Diego State is, but winning there is not just something that Arizona can normally just go and do. Like, Pac-12 teams have to really be prepared for stuff like that, and they went in, won by like 18 points, I think. So I think this is a Mike Leach scheduled game, basically. I don't know if it predates him or whatever, but it's like no SEC coach is going to be like, let's go to Arizona, except for a guy who has gone to Arizona. And maybe some high-scoring affair here, and might be one of these things where I fall asleep by like halftime and you wake up in the middle of the night and see like the game is still going on. And it's like 68 as Washington or Mississippi State is going for their 12th 2-point conversion in overtime. I tend to just go ahead and take the SEC in this, but Mike Leach is still hard for me to quantify and qualify him as SEC, but I'll go ahead and take Mississippi State.
The paycheck and the logo on his the patch on his shirt say SEC, so I guess he's official. So that's kind of where I am. It feels like they have enough of a talent advantage that they should. So unless something weird goes wrong for them, they should win and cover. But yeah, I don't know how confident I am that something weird is not going to go wrong there. So that'll be a potentially a very fun and interesting way to wrap up what should be another fun college football Saturday. Again, everyone looks at these in advance and goes, "There's no good games," and then those are the weeks where just everything explodes all at once. So it may be a fireworks factory kind of Saturday in college football, specifically because you in particular, dear listener, are thinking that it will not be. That's generally how this stuff goes. So. We will start that fireworks factory Saturday very early at Ohio Stadium. I'm guessing 8:30 or 9 a.m., something like that. We'll kick off our pregame show, talking about the Buckeyes and the Red Wolves live from Ohio Stadium. Hey, try and work in some different stuff that we did last week. We're trying a little new stuff here and there, just trying to give you a little better taste of game day and all that kind of stuff. So you can find that at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And then, of course, you can find us post-game. We'll do our big full post-game show again this week. Again, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Look for that right at the end of the game. We will have our full team coverage there from Ohio Stadium and then other spots around the country. And you will want to make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube channel. Hit that bell also so you get notified. And then finally, you just want to make sure you're subscribed to BuckeyeHuddle.com because we've got a really fantastic team of insiders, a lot of great content. Lots of recruiting coverage this week, lots of great X's and O's coverage, lots of great team coverage, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com, and a really fun, vibrant community on that Huddle Insiders board at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We had a reader say, "Hey, why don't you guys do a staff chat?" And he asked that Thursday morning at about 10:30, 11 a.m., and like 20 minutes later, I was like, "Okay, sure, well, we can do that. That's fine." And then we spent the whole day and night and into Friday morning answering questions and like hundreds of questions. So always that we're here for you guys as members. So why don't you become a member and then we'll be here for you too. Sign up today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later today at Ohio Stadium.